All right, so one Sunday, in counting the money in the weekly offering, the pastor of a small church found a pink envelope containing $1,000. Okay, let's plant that seed. It happened again the next week. So the following Sunday, he watched as the offering was collected and saw an elderly woman put the distinctive pink envelope in the plate. So this went on for weeks. And so the pastor, overcome with curiosity, approached her and said, "Ma'am, I couldn't help but notice that you put $1,000 a week in the collection plate." "Why, yes," she replied. "Every week, my son sends me money, and I give 10% of it to the church." The pastor replied, "Well, that's wonderful that you're giving from your heart so generously, but $1,000 is a lot. Are you sure you can afford this? How much does he send you?" And she said, $10,000 a week. And the pastor was amazed. "Your son is very successful. What does he do for a living?" "He's a veterinarian," she answered. "Well, that's a very honorable profession. I had no idea they made that much money," the pastor said. "Where does he practice?" And the woman answered proudly, "In Nevada. He has 2 cat houses, one in Las Vegas and one in Reno." We'll take tithing from anywhere. Bless your hearts. So it's good to start out with a laugh, isn't it? See, joy. So I think you can gather that there's a theme happening this morning called Hearts Wide Open. And I got to tell you, there's just something about spring. I don't know if I've really officially said Happy Spring. It started back in March, but it feels like it's kind of been like the little engine that could. I think I can. And yesterday, for those of us that were downtown marching in the climate march at 90 plus degrees, we felt that it was summer. But I just wanted to wish you a heartfelt spring, because there's something about this time of year, and I think you can relate. It just opens my heart. When I'm driving down the street and I see those precious little green leaves, I talk about that. There's something about that color in nature that we try to emulate and paint, but it's just that brand new, bright greenness. And just the azaleas. Have you walked back here to see our gorgeous azaleas? And it's just so beautiful. And I told you last week about the little robin that has her nest, and I've got orchids blooming in my office. I'm just like full. My heart is so full. And that's what spring, I think, does for us, because it's newness of life. And it's always a reminder to us that life always moves forward. Life is always about newness and expansion. And even when we can feel constricted and we can feel like whatever circumstance we're working with is tight and I don't know what to do, right now, breathe with heart wide open and allow nature to inform you that life is always flowing, and it's always flowing forward and expansively with possibility. And so, given that this song, I wanted to share this song with Jim so much, and he always does such a beautiful job with music, and the whole band does, I wanted to create a talk about this. Because when life flows for us in ways that are unexpected, in ways that can feel hurtful, I know the first thing for my own life, my heart just goes, ink. It constricts. And so I was reminded when Robert Brummett was here, for our Insight Meditation Retreat, the power of the breath to open up the heart. Because what we will do when we are in situations that feel less than loving, or maybe we're grieving, whatever is coming up for us, what will happen is that we get really tight here. We get tight here. And what Robert reminded you, especially that we're in the room with him for the whole weekend. And when, he stayed with me, we would have breakfast and we would talk about the breath. How the breath is the most powerful tool that we have to soften our belly so that we can breathe into our thoughts that feel very tight and very restrictive. And we can open our hearts. We can breathe into our hearts that feel constricted and closed so that that love that we are, folks, that lives right here can flow. So that compassion can flow. So that healing can flow. So joy can be our experience of life. Joy. I was doing some reading, and there are articles out there with proof that say that people that live with a heart wide open and allow joy into their lives, love into their lives, their immune systems are stronger. They're healthier. People that smile have more success in their life. There's studies all over the place. It's just fascinating. And so I just wanted to remind us this morning about joy and how we can let joy into our lives. And so I have a definition of joy that says this: it's the emotion of great delight or happiness caused by something new or satisfying, a keen pleasure, a state of happiness. I also heard that joy is peace dancing. Isn't that fun? Joy is peace dancing. Yeah. So, I'm also reading a book that was inspired by Robert Brummett while he was here, by an author named Stephen Levine. And I don't know if you know of Stephen Levine. He passed away in January of 2016. He was a renowned author, a Buddhist teacher, who worked with people who were dying. He and his wife, Andrea, did profound work with people that were dying. And so he talked to, in this book that I'm reading called Unattended Sorrow, why we keep our hearts closed. The heart is actually a level of mind. The heart doesn't so much open but become available. He talked about many people have said that their hearts are not open but 2 to 3 minutes a day, or even 2 to 3 minutes in a week. The mind creates the abyss, and the heart crosses it. To open the heart, we must be willing to relinquish our long-conditioned, ever-merciless insistence on judging everything that passes through our senses. We get to release ourselves of our judgments. We can be so uncompassionate with ourselves. We need to forgive ourselves for desiring love more than we give it, for being so right, for rehearsing for Judgment Day. We need to open our lives to joy. So we just heard that joy is peace dancing. Joy is happiness and a keen awareness. Friday night, my goddaughter, most of you have met her, she turns 2 on May 1st. I know. And so I'm going to Kansas City tonight, and I couldn't be there for her party today. So we had Friday night together, and we went walking in the woods. It's amazing. A tree that had fallen over the path all of a sudden became a horse. And we rode it. She's fascinated by just picking up a rock and looking at the ants that live there. And of course I'm going, ugh. She loves it. She's fascinated with it. And I taught her how to hug a tree and kiss it. And actually, it didn't take that much. She's just like, oh. It's like she had done it before. So joy. Joy that we get to see in the eyes of a child. They are such our great teachers on how to live with our hearts open to release that judgment that Stephen Levine talked about, to live with a compassionate heart. You know, we can do something that Cindy doesn't like, but she's over it in a matter of seconds. She doesn't hold on to things that don't work for her. It's amazing. She lives with her heart wide open. You know, Charles Fillmore teaches there are 12 powers, and those of you know I took the liberty of adding a 13th, joy. Because I really feel that joy is an inherent faculty of our divine nature. Because really, regardless of whatever has happened in our lives, whatever anyone has ever said to you that is not loving or kind, your joy is. Your joy is an inherent part of the divine gem that you are. And there's a woman that I read about that had PTSD. Her name is Michelle Rosenthal. And she had a 25-year struggle with post-traumatic stress disorder. She reached a point where she wanted to heal, she wanted peace, and knew that she had to actively let go of her past and create her own future. And how she was going to do that, she decided, was she was going to focus on joy as a way to keep her heart open. So she set out on a journey of healing, allowing joy to be her healer and her way to inner peace. And she discovered the healing energy of joy and how we can keep our hearts open to its expression. And just so you know, the practices that I'm going to share with you that she has brought forth has supported her in living 100% free of PTSD. And now she is a mental health advocate, a public speaker, a blogger, a writer, and a workshop facilitator on healing PTSD. So this is what she started doing. She began to consciously practice things that bring her joy. So just take a moment. What brings you joy? Bring it to your mind's eye. And she began to open her heart and allow herself to dream and imagine and spend time imagining what joy would feel like and how she could experience it and how it could expand her world. She said, your brain looks for proof of what you tell it. Begin telling it about joy and it will begin looking for it. So I tell you what, if I need a dose of joy, a reminder, I just go, can I see Sydney? Can I see my 2-year-old goddaughter? So she began to give herself permission, and she acknowledged how easy it is to put off the experience of joy. So think about what brings you joy. How often do you do it? How often do you do it? How often do you put it off because you're so busy? I tell you what, this area, people are busy, 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 busy. You know, I moved here from the Midwest. There is more of a laid-back energy there. They're not quite as busy as we are on the East Coast. I don't know what that is. But so I think it's especially important for us to learn how to breathe into our hearts, to give ourselves permission to think about what brings us joy, and to do it. And she suggested doing something creative, what you love. Now, what's creative for you? Now, I know some of you are artists out there, or singers, musicians, master gardeners, writers, sculptors, crocheters. What is it? Are you doing it? If you love it, are you doing it? And then she reminded us how important it is for us to keep our hearts open and to live in joy. What are we doing for others? You know what it feels like when you give to someone and you know that you've made an impact? It's like, you just want to keep doing it, don't you? Because it makes us stand taller. It makes us stand more clearly in our knowing of the truth of what we are. What are we doing for others? Because we all make a difference in our own unique and beautiful way. And there's a story by Alan Cohen that I love. He's one of my favorite authors. And he talked about this young man that had a mental disability. And he was also in a wheelchair. And what he would do every day was he would go to the end of his driveway. His family would roll him to the end of his driveway because this is what the little boy wanted to do, to give back. He would wave. He would just sit in his chair at the end of the driveway because there was a road that came by that was fairly frequented with cars. He would just wave. And Alan said, if I had the opportunity to go a different way, I wouldn't go a different way. I would go the way so I could see this little boy waving. That would remind me of joy and how we each uniquely in our own beautiful way can do something for others through expressing our joy. Yeah, just opened his heart. So this week, I'm just going to invite you to do a heart check. How open's your heart right now? And if it's not open, as Stephen Levine reminded us, where are you judging? Where are you resisting? And just like in our meditation, can you breathe into that and bring whatever it is into your open heart of love and ease that resistance? And then give some thought to what brings you joy. What brings you joy? And this week, do it. Whatever it is, just do it. And notice how you feel. Notice if your heart is more open. Notice if you feel expanded. And also, I'm going to invite you this week, do something for someone else. Do something for someone else that you know will bring them joy. And notice the joy in your heart. Are you willing to live with your heart wide open? And go enjoy spring. Happy spring. Let's affirm together. I open my heart to new possibilities and feel the peace and expansion of joy-filled living. And so it is.